problem with these little boats like this is that when we have an issue with the fuel tank is that you gotta pretty much take everything out of here in order to get to it. And I did move the batteries up here, so those all gonna come out to get to the fuel tank. Not really that big of a deal because all these little boats are like that. Any flats boats, bay boats, bass boats, all that stuff. These just little boats in general, there's no space for anything. So I got to take this stuff out so I can get to the fuel tank and see if we can figure out what is leaking on the tank, allowing water to get into our fuel tank. It appears that we do have water here. It is obviously coming in from underneath this console. That is one of the biggest spots all the way around here. I need to recock that, but I don't know if I'll get to that today or not. Luckily the sealant, it's not getting down into our floor in our screw hole because we sealed those up real nice, so no water's getting in there. But let's take a look down here in our tank and see what we're looking like. My guess is that one of these is going to be leaking, so we need to pressure test the tank to see which one of these it is, if it's one of these two. And the way that we're going to do that is that we need to come out here and we're going to do it over here on the vent and on the fill port. So I need to take the fill port, plug that, and then I'm going to take off the vent and I'm going to put the air into the tank through the fill port. And I'm just going to take my hose crimpers and I'm going to crimp off that hose right there so that it doesn't really, I mean, we're not going to put any air out of there, but we'll be able to spray this with some soapy water to see if any air comes out and whether or not they're leaking. These right here are what I'm talking about for crimping the hose. These are going to shut off the hose. And then if we come over here, we need to get these items right here. So this right here, you just take this, stick it into the fill port, and we're going to put air into it. And when you put air into it, it expands. It's a pipe shut off. You just stick air in there, and that's pretty much it. We're going to use that item there, and then we need to get this right here, which is going to be how we put air into the system. But I'm going to adapt this a little bit different. This is not exactly what I'm going to use because I'm going to adapt it to our vent that's on the outside of the hull. Right here is where I would like to put that air into the tank. So I've got threads there, so I can find a fitting. All right, let me go. Okay, hold on. Okay, so we're looking for a nipple that is just a little bit smaller than that piece right there. That's too big. Let me search around for this. Now usually I just take this and I put this into the tank and I pump it in through the fill port, but I like this idea of the vent with the screws. So what I want to do is I'm going to go on a little adventure and see if I can't find these threads with a nipple to like a 3/8 or something that I could then adapt to be able to introduce air through the vent hose. I like this coming from the outside of the boat. This would be nice to have. Here's what I ended up getting. I got a flare fitting. So this is just a 3/8 flare fitting with a 3/8 MIP, and this is the flare side, but the flare is actually the same size as this right here. I need to go put it in the boat and make sure that it'll fit in there. I might have to grind the actual flare off of the fitting, but then I just got a 3/8 FIP fitting to go on the other side of it, which will adapt it to our 3/8 hose. And because of the tank being so small, I'm going to just use this right here. I'm just going to use my pressure for my Stevens. So I'm just going to use this to pressure it. Now, whenever you pressure a tank, you cannot put too much in there, and I'll explain that in a minute. Let's get all this set up. This can work perfectly. crimp the pickup hose right there here in the back to make it easy, and then I've also got our fill port plugged off. Our vent is hooked up there, and now we can go ahead and pump some air into the tank and see if we got any kind of leak. I'm just going to take some degreaser, soapy water, spray it on the fittings and see if they have any air bubbles. So let's get to this. Well, we've got a leak somewhere and I'm not sure where it is, because I'm pumping and pumping and pumping and I'm not getting anything, and I can hear it down into here. I'm not sure what it is. I don't see any visible leaks, but you can definitely hear it. So I'm not too sure where it's leaking out. I'm going to take this off and take a look back here. Well, this is great. If you look in here, just foamed all those hoses all the way down. So if we got a problem with these hoses, that's going to be a nightmare to have to deal with. I'm going to spray some soapy water in here and kind of see if I got a leak in there anywhere. Okay, so I think I have a pretty big problem. I'm going to try and pump this up a little bit. I have actually pinched off the vent hose here. I'm pretty sure I did a pretty good job of it. It appears to be fully pinched off, and it didn't really make a difference. It's still leaking out. So when I pump this, it's still leaking out, and this is just my vent hose. So nothing, which means that that vent hose probably has a hole in it, or it's cracked, or who knows what the issue is. I'm going to try and get in here a little bit deeper, investigate that a little bit more to make sure I have it fully pinched off, and then I'm going to have to do some real contemplating on what we're going to do next. Alright, so I just made this right here in order to plug this vent hose. I got it off. I don't really know if it's the vent hose that's leaking, because when I took it off, there was some pressure in the tank. So this could be potentially an issue. But I just took a fitting there, put a flush fitting on it, and then I capped it off at the top. I mean, I don't really know if this is going to hold that much, but I'll put it on there and then we'll see if the vent hose is leaking or if I have a problem somewhere else. 5 psi, we're holding strong, so definitely not the hose. Hose is good to go. So now that we know that our vent hose is good, this is not what we want to hear, but yeah, very interesting. So let me go ahead and put the hose back on there and try and put some more pressure in here and kind of see if we can figure out where this leak is coming from. All right, so new strategy. You can see how our tank has sort of a concave look to it. So I'm going to go ahead and start pumping air into the tank, and then once it starts to pressurize up, I know it's not going to hold pressure, but I'm going to hopefully get in at least half a pound maybe, to where it'll start to kind of push the tank up a little bit, and then we'll try and see exactly where this leak is coming from. It might be that this tank is shot, which would be very unfortunate. Well, I am starting to have a loss of words. I'm not sure what exactly is going on here. I mean, I got no leaks on the sender, I got no leaks on the pickup, no leaks on the vent. The tank is starting to pop up, which means it's got pressure. There's no smell at all of any fuel. I know I don't have any pressure in the tank. I mean, there's pressure in there, but not enough to read on that gauge. That's plugged off. No fuel coming out the bilge. I'm starting to let me do one thing real quick. This is a shot in the dark, but it is a new concern that I have. Ethanol tester. Well, I knew that was a shot in the dark, but that's not our problem, so time to get back to looking at it. Well, I don't have any pressure in the tank that's reading on the gauge. If there is, there's a half a pound in there, but we've got enough air in the tank to where it's starting to bulge a little bit. No leaks on our sender or on the pickup. No bubbles, no leaks on the vent hose. So there must be something else on this tank that we're missing. I do not smell any fuel, so not sure what exactly is going on here. There's no ethanol in the tank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reseal. I'm just going to reseal this. I'm going to reseal the console. I'm going to reseal that thing over there. I'll probably reseal that right there as well. And then I might just get a fuel water separator with a bowl on it to drain the water out. And then we'll just have to watch and regulate this over the next few months or so, because not getting into cutting this deck out to pull this tank until we can figure something out a little bit more than what we've figured out now. But for now, this is gonna have to be what it's gonna be. When I fill it up with fuel, we'll be able to tell a little bit more, but for right now, this is where we're at. I'm just gonna reseal everything, put it all back together, and not go any further with this, because I don't want to cause any damage. Even though I only have maybe half a tank of air in there, or half a PSI, it's still, the tank has bulged enough to where I don't feel comfortable putting any more air in there, just because I don't want to mess something up that isn't messed up 100% yet. So this has been sitting for about an hour or so, and the tank is still kind of pushed up. There's like, I haven't lost any pressure, so yeah, I think we're good to go. I'm just gonna kind of leave this as, maybe there was just residual water in there and that's what I picked up. So we're gonna have to just leave this as it is. Again, I don't smell any fuel and it's not losing pressure, so I'm gonna reseal this compartment, reseal the helm, reseal that thing, take all this stuff out. Like, this is real easy to do. Just take the valve stem thingy. Let's push this thing down. Now, that's a lot of air that came out of there. This thing's holding tons of pressure. It had to be residual water that was in there. Had to be. Do not care how sloppy it looks. The main thing that we wanted is we wanted a nice smoosh all the way out, all the way around there, so that way we know for sure when water actually gets into here, if it ever does again after we seal the console, it's very possible that it will. So we want to make sure that water that hits this just builds up and runs all the way around it, and then is able to come out here to leave the console. We just do not want water to be able to get under this. I really do not believe that water is going to build up high enough to get to this gasket. That's not really a concern of mine, because yeah, it'd have to fill, it would fill up a lot. Oh boy. So, well, looking over here, that's the next concern, is water getting into the tank from that thing right there. So I'm gonna have to take this thing out and we'll reseal this as well, but this one's gonna be a little bit bigger of a pain than this one was. So Okay, so now that that's sealed up and that's sealed up, any water that gets in here is going to just hit that, roll around it, and it'll come right out here under there and come out the console right there. I am going to reseal this right here and clean all this up, but I won't suffer you with all of that. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'm just going to recock this line and put all this back together. So that'll be it for this video. I won't make you watch putting another sealant line around this console.